UFC 314. We knew it was tasty on paper, and boy, did it freaking deliver. Good God. The main card delivered like you wouldn't believe, kids. I got a little upset when in the prelims, the co-main event, the prelims before Dan Ige, you're just watching low-level MMA there, and it's forced upon us. It's like tuning in to the Lakers and Dallas Mavericks, and you're forced to watch the WNBA. You're like, hey, man, maybe they should start an Invicta UFC women's division, because that fight kind of takes the wind out of your sails. And then the referee totally dropped the ball in Dan Ige's stoppage, even though he's beating the brakes off of him. But let the guy go out on his shield. Sean Woodson got robbed. He's too tall. You're too tall, right, for featherweight. But that's nor here nor there. Let's get to the main card. God, it was juicy. Dominick Reyes. How can you not love Dom? Boy, did he go into a K-hole when he lost to John Jones. He got robbed. A lot of people think he won that fight. It was close. Go back and watch it. Super close fight. Closest John's ever been to being beat. And then he just gets started. I think it just took the motivation. It took just the wind out of his sails. And then he gets knocked out 3 straight. You're like, okay, Dominick Reyes is done. Especially at light heavyweight. Chin's gone. Vicious knockouts. He takes a hot second off. Comes back. Now he's won 3 in a row at light heavyweight. And he's starching, folks. Look at that. He didn't win a fight for 2 years. It's not like he didn't win. He lost to John in 2020 of February. He's like, you know what? All good. I'll come back. Fights Jan, gets starched. He's like, okay, that's not good, but 2 of the top guys, let me fight Yuri. These are all savages. Gets absolutely mollywopped by Yuri with a spinning back elbow. That kind of creates the whole hype on Yuri. Then the UFC is like, all right, we're giving you some tough guys. Here's Ryan Spann, who's not a world beater, but you should be able to beat him. He gets starched in the first round KO again. And he goes, all right, I'm going to take some time off. I'm going to take 2 years off. Beats Justin Jacoby, good fighter. Knocked him out. Then Anthony Smith, solid fighter, solid as they get. And then Krylov, who's in the top 12, and then starches him. Very Aldo McGregor-like, with Krylov rushing in and then just gets clipped. So shout out to Dominick Reyes, man. God, the mental fortitude to stay in there and just keep doing the damn thing. Good for him. You can go back to the main thing, Jin. And then I was like, I kind of forgot about the way the card was lined up. And I'm like, I'm sitting there with the family and friends, and I'm like, here we go. And then John Silva and Bryce Mitchell come out. And you're like, oh, shit, the people's main event is here. My main event was Patty Pimlet Chandler, which we'll get to. But Silva and Mitchell, you're like, here we go. This is the narrative. Like I said, there's supposed to be a disciplinary fight for Bryce Mitchell after saying all that crazy shit and thinking the earth is flat and wants to party with Hitler and all that crap. So they gave him Silva, and I went on record saying, you think this is discipline? This is a tough fight for Silva. This ain't no walk in the park. You look at his previous record. He's been taken down. Bryce Mitchell can grapple. Like, this is a tough fight. But I said I won't bet on this if Bryce Mitchell's not getting sleep. And then you see very early on, that motherfucker got no sleep. I don't know if that's why he looked terrible. He looked awful. It's a very – Donnie, get Bubba. Donnie's all up in the cords. Get him out of there. Yeah, all up in the cords. There you go. Sorry about that, folks. Bryce Mitchell looked bad. He looked bad. Worst performance he's had yet. It takes a special character like a Colby. Not that, Colby didn't say anything about Hitler and anti-Semitic, but for Bryce Mitchell, what he's been going through and the backlash he's been getting, and rightfully so. He said some wild shit. But it takes a special type of fighter to be able to kind of silence all that and still get to work and pretend it's not going on, or even if it's going on, use it as motivation. For a guy like Bryce Mitchell, it wasn't that he used as motivation. It kind of hindered his camp, hindered his performance. His focus was off. His entries to his takedowns were so amateur. It was so bad. So Silva looked fantastic. Looked like he can compete for a top 5 spot. I'm not taking anything away from Silva. Bryce Mitchell didn't look like a top 50 guy Saturday night. Bryce Mitchell looked like the social media got to him, the naysayers got to him. He was almost submitted before he got caught with that ninja choke. Just the basics were not being checked off with his takedowns. It just looked awful. Awful. That's why I would never bet money on that fight, because Bryce has never been in this situation, and boy did he not answer the call. He didn't answer the call. This could have went a lot worse for him. Getting choked out unconscious, eyes open, that's bad. That's pretty bad. If Silva would have took this a little more serious, and this is what the UFC wanted. What Paddy Pimblett did to Michael Chandler, that's what they wanted Silva to do to Bryce Mitchell. But Silva was kind of messing around. Like in the walkout, it's a jolly old good time. He's high-fiving. He keeps pushing this thing where he jumps on the cage and barks like a dog. I don't know if you saw it. He asked the camera to do it once. He asked photographers to do it once. And he did it twice again. I'm like, okay, quit trying to put fetch on us, bud. It's just not working. That's his thing. If Silva would have took this fight a little more, I think Bryce Mitchell's takedowns, Silva was never in any jeopardy. He just shut all that shit down. It was so basic. So I just think Silva was just like, oh my God, dude. Like the striking wasn't there. The movement was slow. The takedowns weren't set up. And he was just fucking around that first round. I'm like, God, dude, just get to work and you're going to starch this dude. You're going to fucking starch this cat. Finally, by the second round, it started to land. It started getting a little more comfortable. And the chokes were there. Anytime Bryce, even the first round, anytime Bryce went for a takedown, the submission was there from the jump. And Silva would have saw that if he wasn't distracted by all this hype. Now, both of them don't have Bryce has more experience. Obviously, fought Topiary, but neither of them have experience at this level, this magnitude of a fight. And I think for Silva too, it was a lot to deal with. You're fighting kind of your first ranked guy. He'll definitely be in the top 10 now, I'd assume. I think Bryce was 12, but it's hard to argue that Silva's not a top 10 guy. He looked like a world beater if he was focused for the entire fight, but even he was a little unfocused, and then Bryce Mitchell was just out of his league. You can't watch that. If you knew nothing about either of these guys, you watch that fight, you're like, hold up, that guy's the top 12? There's no way. That guy's top 12 in the world? Not a chance. Not a chance. Again, chalk it up to Silva's family putting a spell on Bryce Mitchell, him not getting sleep. Chalk it up to whatever you want, but Bryce just was not ready for the moment. He wasn't. And what's crazy, too, is Bryce Mitchell had the fan support. Man, he was I thought he was gonna be a heel in this fight with all the wild shit he said, but turned out he was kind of a baby face. He was kind of the fan favorite. He was getting cheered. They're chanting USA. That ain't the one to do it, man. He just got fucking mollywopped, and I don't know how it ends for him. I don't know. He's training a small camp in Arkansas with chickens on the ranch there. I don't know. It's not good. For Silva, sky's the limit. Young man, you gotta stay focused. We don't want to see you playing grab ass and beating this guy in the second round. Like, you gotta take care of business early on, because Bryce Mitchell can be the easiest guy he's fought. After this, dude, it's murder's row. And especially now, the way the UFC works, especially at the featherweight division. I'd like to see Silva, Diego Lopez. I'd like to see Silva versus Yair Rodriguez. That's where he's at. That's where he's at. His easiest test was Bryce Mitchell. So the verdict's still out on Silva. I know the fight nerds are killing it. They're undefeated. I'm a huge fan of them. But I'm not ready to say Silva can compete with a Topuria yet. Not based off this performance. He checked the box. He did his job. He annihilated Bryce Mitchell. Bryce looked absolutely horrific. Bryce fights Diego, Yair, Volkanovski, any of those top cats, Ortega, they fucking mollywop him in 2 minutes. That's not a competition. If that Bryce that showed up, the distracted, unfocused, has a spell on him, not sleeping Bryce, that guy's going to have some trouble surviving the UFC. Who knows? Maybe he'll learn from this and go back to the drawing board and get back on the winning path, but it's going to depend on the matchup they give him. But striking-wise, it's just not there. The grappling was not there. That was tough. That was a tough night for him. Very tough. Then you had Yair. Dude, talk about, this is basically a tournament of featherweights. So you had Yair Rodriguez, Patricio Pitbull. This one's tough. Yair looked fantastic. Patricio, he's just kind of following Yair the whole time, getting picked apart. Yair was never really in any trouble. Probably the worst fight on the main card if you have to pick one. Not a bad fight, but out of out of all the fights, you're just like, all right, you kind of knew what was going to happen the first round. Like, okay, it's going to go like this. Okay, got it. That's how it's going to go. Patricio Pitbull just came over to the UFC too late. He'll never be a world beater in the UFC. Any of the top 5 guys beat him. For Yair, he's kind of in a weird position because he only has one win, right? He lost to Brian Ortega, and then he beat older, weathered Patricio Pitbull. He got absolutely dominated by the current champion, Volkanovski. Could you do that rematch, especially in Guadalajara, like he wants to? You could. I don't. But Volkanovski wants to be active. He wants to get right back in. I think he should take some more time off. I just don't see a huge calling for that fight. I don't think Yair's done enough. I think you do. This is a no-brainer. This fight writes itself, and they set it up. They made the matchup themselves. Shelby can kind of take a seat and grab a cup of coffee for this one. This one matches itself. Yair Rodriguez, Diego Lopez is the fight. They can't stand each other. There's a history there. They're in camp together. There's a lot to chew on there. And it just makes more sense. I just can't see them giving a Yair Rodriguez a title shot against Alexander Volkanovski after winning one fight. Prior to that, he lost to Brian Ortega. And then he lost to Volkanovski. That fight wasn't even close against Volkanovski. So I think Yair Rodriguez, Diego Lopez. And also, for Diego Lopez, it makes sense. I know, why would you match up a guy that won one in Yair against a guy who lost? Because he fought the champ. And this Diego Lopez, Yair Rodriguez seems a little more of Diego Lopez's speed. We'll get to that main event.